How you doing, Ralfy here, Ralfy Customs? Time to get cracking on and hopefully finish off all the tube work for our Andrew's Triumph rigid shop. Regular readers will have seen that on the last video we did the bulk of it really. We did the full cradle with the top tube, headstock, rear engine mounts, everything. What my quandary at the minute is that I made a slight error of judgment. The ends of this tube don't finish how I would like. I went to great lengths to make sure that they sat with a nice joint to weld onto a straight bit, but we're not going to have a straight bit. That's the inside of the axle plates, and you can see how much it needs to come across. Now, in the past I've done a bit of a dog leg and up, but as I explained in the last video, they're alright cunt to do, and I think that a loop, it looks neater and is easier. Obviously it's easier, well, not obviously, but that means that this end of tube don't quite work right. Although this test piece ain't quite 90 degrees, it's going to end up somewhere there. If I push that hard against there, that on the inside, say out there a bit. So we have a gap here. Now, I'm probably going to go on this flush on the bench, put a sleeve in, and then put a bit of tube on the end to fill that out. I could just make a nice fucking plate that goes in there and does the deed, because we do tend to put a bit of a fillet plate across it when we do it like that. And from that loop, ignore the fact it don't line up at the front, it's going to sit about there. Yeah, do it these. What I don't want to do is just lift that up so that it reaches, because that's a good stretch. I think I'm going to put another bend in there or thereabouts, and I also think that I can get that in the bender. So we're still going to have a bit of a dog leg, if you like. It's going to loop round, and then from about there, it's going to kick up and contact the underside of those. And then we'll get the seat rails in, which are a nice come out and down to here, and then a couple of cross pieces in. So next up, we have got, if you can understand my list, we've got the seat rails and we've got the rear lower loop. So I've worked out what they need to be. We've got them cut off and ready to bend, marked up in my usual fashion. And I know I'm guesstimating 35 degrees there, but we'll try it. Once we bend one, we'll try it. And I know that these need bending at 90, which is difficult to achieve accurately for me because I don't have a square big enough to actually get on it and measure it. But that's no to worry, because we've got this and we've got this. There's a datum, so we can offer it up and try it, get it bang on 90. So we know that we want that on the edge of the former. I've got left 4 inches, which is going to be, hold on, let's get this all together. I don't like going much past the end of this, especially when you've got a bolt there. So we're probably going to have to just flush that off like that, and then call that quits, which ain't quite on my 4 inch. But we're doing both the same, and I'm sure I've left enough to not have to worry about that 1/2 inch. So we'll get that in there, we'll get that tight, and I mean tight. We don't want it creeping. We'll get that zeroed like that, and we'll crack on and get this bent up to 90. Just like so. This should take us up to about 50. Hold on, missed one. Thereabouts. Oh, past 50. That's good. And then we'll take another bite of the cherry or apple or whatever else you want to poison yourself with. And we take it around until it says 90. We're probably going to have to go a little bit over because of the spring back. That'll do. Righto, seat rail time. These are 35 degrees. I may or may not have already done the test piece. So I can see that 35 works. So, brace your blood. Yeah. Tough stuff, this is. How are we doing? Nearly. A little bit more. Bit of spring back's going to occur. That is fucking bang on. 35 degrees on the monitor. Right, with all 4 of those bent, we can now look at trimming up. We know that's the inside, that line represents the inside of this plate, and we want about 6mm in. So we can measure that, and then we can put a date on. Could be anywhere, but it wants to be past the bend. We're going to guess at middle. I think there might be a line there, actually. We'll use that, and then we can mark it, cut it, and do the same with that one. And then we've got the 2 loops. I think we're going to use an interesting bit of engineering to sort the ends of those tubes out. And the seat rails are here, look, they're bent. And they're going to go in quite fucking nicely. About there, and fluting to fit, and then they need cutting off to match that. So that's all good. Here we go, look, so off camera, because you've just seen enough of that, we've got this bending, because I want that to run flat and then kick up to cop that. Yeah, so we've just done that, and we've trimmed them off on the midway point. I'll go on the lathe and spin up a slugger dugger to join them together, and I will trim off the ends. I'll lay it on just outside like that, and then mark up the inside with a marker pen, and that'll give me the angle of the dangler, the slash cut that's going to join that. We can tickle it up and get it tacked up. So slug to make, ends to trim. Someone's outside making a lot of noise. We can get on with that.
Don't forget, folks, our Fuck Stock stickers are now available in our Etsy store, link in the description below. Fuck Stock, you know it makes sense.
So, one of them dummied in place, well, we've got a sleeve in there that we're going to use when we join it middle for diddle, which is fine. We can make sure that that's pressed flat. I'm going to get Josh to come over and press that flat for me. And then I'm going to trace it up down here. I'm going to trace that under there to where it fits and trim that off to length so we can get this U made, and then we can look at the knobby bits that are going to fill out these corners. Okay, so we have worked out where the end's going to come and worked out the angle that we need, and we know that with that dead fucking square, which it ain't quite at the minute, that we need to cut straight down and cut that piece out. But like I say, we'll leave it a bit big. We'll leave room for tickling it up because we don't want a yawning great fucking gap there. Right, we're cooking on gas now. Josh is just buffing up that. I trimmed it off camera. I trimmed the ends off, got it right, pulled it together with the slugging, tacked it up, welded and cleaned it. Josh is just polishing it up so it's nice and shiny. Next for me is these seat rails. Now I know, because I've measured what they need to be. They need to be 6 inches from the outside to where they meet the backbone. So on this bench I marked that 6 inches, and then we can pull this up, look, level it up with the edge, and then transfer that 6-inch line through. So when we bring this over here, which is going to be really fucking difficult to show you, if I put that where I want it on there and put that line where I want it on the front, these are running true. Yeah, dead simple really. Right, this is the plan. Doofus fucked them up, if you remember. because he didn't take into consideration the fact that this would be on a bend. I don't know what fucking happened there. Brain fart. Thought of being clever, and obviously I wasn't. What I should have done was leave them along. But there you go. I didn't. I don't want to just join them and put a bit in. I don't think. Although that would be all right, because we're going to probably plate here. Definitely weld in or 3 places each side of that. It's going to be tougher than a minibus full of Millwall fans coming home from an away day defeat. I think what I'm going to do is machine some plugs that are going to plug the end of that and be a bit long, and that I can shape to fill the gap, basically. That filler word. So I think it is over to the lathe. I'm going to take this out of the way, trim them off pretty flat, although it ain't got to be super flat because we're going to weld it all up, and then get machining, I think. Right, let's get these ultra posh fucking end bung transition pieces. Don't know. I mean, I could just plate it in and be done with it, but it's too, you know, I'm better than that, ain't I? So I'm just going to face this chunk of 32mm, which is the same size as the tube, up to length. Whatever length it is, I don't give a shit. I've done some working out, so I can work with what I've got. Just break that edge. I'll spin it around and do the same to the other end, like so. So here she comes, boosh. Again, not going to be the perfect finish on that end, boys. We're going to drill most of it out, and it's going to be welded forever within the annals of the frame tube. So we've got, look, it's that inaccurate that we can use a fucking tape, a rule, sorry. We have got 60mm on the fucking nose, good old Josh. We want 25mm left fat. So that, in my fucking estimation, is a 35mm machine down. So we'll stick that in there with 2 more hanging out. Hopefully 35mm, or more than 35mm. Yeah. We'll touch on. We'll zero a DRO, and then we'll take this down to 27.5, which is there. Come on. There. And we will go 35mm. Like fucking so. It's a nice 70 thou cut, that is. Thereabouts, 1 3/4 mm, taking 3mm off nearly. So everyone's a fucking winner, and we want 35mm, like I say. Right, I'm just creeping up on that now. 31, 2, 3, 4, 35mm. There we go. I will break that edge and put a good chamfer on it. So bear with me. I've just swapped tools. Excuse me. Getting in frame. Out with the old. In with the new. Can't have a quick change tool post up. Give that a good chamfer, man, and see if I can get this without clouting the fucking chuck. Probably not. No, not a fucking prayer. That don't matter. I'm not bothered. I've just used this just to make sure there ain't a burr, because I don't want to hurt myself on it. I'll do the same with the other one, then I'll flip them around. Well, I'll flip one around and hold it by the skinny bit, and then that'll give us a nice shoulder because we're going to drill it out. So, as always, bit of lube. That's what separates us from those animals. Get started with the old centre drill and slipping, and tailstock slipping. I'm red hot, sweating, tired and fucking oily. So, things ain't as tight as they could be, if you know what I mean. In with a 10mm pilot, or thereabouts. Well, it is, bang on, I can read it. In with a 10mm pilot, and that's going to go all the way through. So we will have to plunge, withdraw, lube. Plunge, withdraw, lube. Okay. Now we're with a 22mm, because we don't want a big fucking solid bit of shit. So might be a bit of a squealer until we get it down to the hilt. Hey, that's what she said. not too bad actually. Bit of a dirty smoker like, but you know. Lastly, well, sat the fucking juggler. There goes a lube pot. I've just done a Josh. If you know, you know. Lastly, I want to counterbore this big bit a bit bigger at 24.5mm because I don't need it that fucking thick. So, just going to bring that tool into touch and line up with my 10mm mark on my quill on my back here. Look, you can't see it. And I'm going to go. I know that the 10mm of it don't get cut off. I know I'm rambling, but I know what I mean. So I just want to go in a bit. I didn't want to hold still, did it? So I'm going to go 25, that is, isn't it? So if I go 20, that will leave 5mm of it at full thickness, which is super fucking strong. It's well strong enough anyway. And lastly, but by no means leastly, get them fucking that shit out of the way. Come on, fuck off. I'm going to break that edge so I don't fucking slice myself up fucking about, Will. And then I'll show you what we're going to do, Will. Righto, folks. So it's the next week for us. Josh is off. Josh was 18 at the weekend and he's gone off to visit one of his mates for a few days. So we have the gorgeous camera shy Lizzie in. He's going to help me do some welding and recording and stuff. He's got her back to the camera because she's shy. Bless her. But we made these, look. We made these parts that now they shove in there. They're a bit tight. I might need to take a little skim off there just so that they go in a bit easier. And then with this seat loop that we made, this bottom loop that we made in place, we will trim those up so that they have a nice blend, and then push them in there, weld it all up. Fucking jobs of fish, far stronger than it would have been leaving a gap and filling it, or putting a plate in, or fucking about some other way of doing it. So it's nice and simple transition between the cradle tubes and the rear loop. So with them shoved up the pipe light up the tube, we can lay my test piece on there and then knock it with a pen while I'm fucking demonstrating it. What I've done is marked where the rails actually come on the frame, and I can lay that over the marks to get everything lined up, and then I can draw around there to give myself an indication where to sand it and grind it to shape. 10 seconds. Right, so we've had a go at that, as you've just seen. What we did, we laid it on the job and give ourselves a bit of a guideline with a marker pen, and we've just done one quick grind off and that way, and then shaped it because we know it goes on a bit of tube, and then I've marked on this where it's going to come, and we can see there's still a yawning gap here, and it's sitting on the middle there. So I know that it wants a bit more of this out. I do anyway, because when I measured up, there was about a 10mm gap there. And 25 there, which is what this is. So I'm going to do a bit more of the sandy grinder with the flat wheel, making sure that we contour it this way as well as that way, and hopefully it'll match up a bit better. Okay, so what we've done is we've shaped that as you've just seen. It took 2 or 3 goes like to get about right, and we just took a very light skim off the outside because it was tight up the tube. So now it's not tight up the tube, it fits nice. We'll eyeball that level. We'll put a test piece in because the bit that actually goes in there is a bit ungainly. Yeah, we can push that to level it up. And now that sits lovely for a weld. We put a very light chamfer on that edge just so we've got a bit more room for a weld. And that should do the job nicely. That's one down, one to go. We'll just repeat it with the other side off camera because you've seen me do one pretty much, and then that's the end of those tubes finished, and means that we can fit the bottom rails, that bottom loop that we made. Happy days. So with everything in place, we'll get a couple of tacks on. I'll get a little tack on the middle there first, so let me get positioned right, get my helmet down. Mind your eyes, babe. Okay. Get another one up under here. Mind your eyes. Sweet. So with all of that bottom lock tacked in place, we can get onto these seat rails, which I have off camera cut. I think I explained it in the last clip. This video might be a bit disjointed because it's spread out over a few days like. So I've worked out where I want these up and down on this top tube on the backbone, and I'm offering this one up, and if you come down the bottom look, I've got it hanging out wide because I want it. I've lined up the end with this joint, which is how the bottoms are, and I'm eyeballing through best I can to make sure that it's not right down here and hanging off the job, and then I can give myself a bit of a mark to work to, like so. And then off camera again I will notch those out like I did the bottom ones, and then hopefully we won't be a mile out when we put it in place in a minute or two or 10. Right, everything is notched and trimmed and sitting quite pretty, so I will just struggle a little bit. It's a bit fucking tricky to hold it and keep it lined up, but it sits pretty naturally where it wants to. So what I'll do, I'll get a very little tack on the outside so we can get to it if we need to break that tack. So I'll just get a tack on. Hold on, mind your eyes. Wait a minute, eyes. There you go. So that's holding it for me now, and then I can get that just on that weld I want it, about there, so we're nice and even. And I'll do the same here. I'll just get a little tack on this back corner. Oh, fucking I'll move it in the process. So here we go. I'll get that there. Get a little tack on that back corner. Mind your eyes. That's it. That'll do for that one. And in with number 2. So we've done exactly the same. I'll just get a couple of tacks on. Hold on. Tack on here. Like that. Just a little one that we can get to if we need to move stuff. And then the same with the back here. Need to pull that out a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit inside, that is. So don't want to put any pressure on it. I'm just pulling it so it's tight at the top so it fits. I'll get a tack on the back here. Anyway, that's it. Then we'll check it all over, make sure everything fits everything else, and get some real tacks on it. Okie fucking dokie, pop pickers. With that on, both of those in place, we have literally got 2 bits of tube. Look, there's resting Lizzie. She has been ever since. She did some welding. Let me show you. It's not still hot. This is the first time Liz has ever welded. Pretty much. She had a couple of goes on the fucking striker block. Yeah. And then I set up this fucking for her. And that's not bad. That's not bad. That is as good as I could do it. I'm not even joking. So yeah, Lizzie's welding. Right, I digress. What's next is 2 cross pieces, 1 each side, 1 top, 1 bottom, and then we have got all of the tube work done, and we can get some proper welds on it before we take it off the bench and put the front end and back end in. So I'm going to show Lizzie how to cut tube and get us to cut a couple of bits of tube. So these are the 2 pieces for the seat rails. I just want to explain seat rails for the cross pieces. We need to make them fit a bit of tube the same size, don't we? Like there, it's a coping look. People have paper templates, they have all sorts of shit to get this coat right. All I do is, I know that I want some out at 180 degrees to each other because it fits on square. So some out the front, some out the back. And I'll take a bit out the top, look. I also know how much longer longer than the gap, I've made this tube, so I just divide it. If I've made it 1/4 of an inch longer, then I want to come back 1/8 of an inch when I do my cutout, because there's 1/8 of an inch out each end, and it won't be a mile off. So I do one like that, just take the edge off and smooth it out, then flip it 180 degrees, and do the same, just eyeball it. Take some out, always take off a bit less than I think, give it a clean out, get rid of the bone. Yeah, I always take off a bit less than I think, because if it's too short, you're fucked. If it's too long, you've got a bit to play with, and that gives me a bit of a coat look. Righto, pot pickers, last 2 rails cut and held in place. We square that one off the box that we know is square, and then we square this one off that one, which I can't show you very well, something like that. I've not squared it yet, so it might not be level. We know that we are 1 inch above whatever the wheel radius is to the edge of that, the front edge of that, so if the wheel's right forward, there'll still be a gap. I don't know what sort of mudguard our Andrew's running. I think he's running a little shorty like I've got, but I'm not sure. But mine goes down to there, I think. Thought you'd know, wouldn't you? But, you know. So, I will. That's fucking right on the cock, look. That's not square, is it? But I will attend to that before I tack it in, which I'm going to do next. So there you go, pot pickers. Those 2 rails are in, and square and straight and true, and everyone's a winner. That is that frame fabricated in full. There's nothing left to do apart from nothing left to do, and then you give a list of what's left to fucking do, eh? What's that all about? What I will do is not weld it up. I will increase the tacks. I'll put some stitches here and there. I think there'll be plenty of opportunities to strip it down and weld it up properly before it goes home, because there's a lot of fabrication work to do on this bike. And I am doing it all as far as I know, so there's no need to struggle to get in places and weld stuff up. Off camera, I'll run round and I'll just give it some weld, you know. Just make sure that everything's held properly in place, and put a few stitches here and there, especially around these back ends. These always pull together when I weld them. What I've took to doing is tacking a bar across the back, or across here, wherever I see fit. If they're out the jig, there's no point doing it while this has got it like. I think it might be these, welding these might pull it in. That makes sense to me. So I'll get some weld on here and there, and there and here, and we'll call that frame fucking done. Happy days. Yeah, try and get a fucking thumbnail. I've took a couple of photos, see what we can do. So there you go, that is another thrilling instalment on that nice Mr. Andrews Triumph build. There is plenty of fabrication work to be done if you want to follow along. It just leaves me as always to say thanks for watching. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing or even joining the channel as a member. It makes a massive difference, it really does. I'll just get that Triumph fucking logo in shot. And check out all the bumps in the description below. There's some cool stuff in there. Our merchandise is in there and other stuff like. And also, if you've watched along this far, what I've started doing is asking people to drop a comment to tell me whereabouts they're watching from. So if you're new to the channel or you've not done that yet, please let me know. It's really interesting to see how far and wide Ralfy Customs audience is, yeah? So thanks once again, and I will catch you all on the next one. Big love everyone, see you soon.